about fish being and fishing along the Elizabeth Islands? Oh, that is a gorgeous fish.
They are all beauties.
Guys, this is one of those typical days at On the Water where a little bit of a jailbreak. In Massachusetts, we don't have an opening day that like many of the states in New England do. Here we can get out a little early. So here we are, the end of March. This is one of those gifts that you wait for all winter long. And Andy, Nabreski, and I are gonna be trying to work different kettle ponds to show you some of the fishing that exists right here on Cape Cod due to some of the hatchery programs that exist all throughout Massachusetts and New England for that matter. One of the great things about fishing down here on the Cape is we got kettle ponds all over the place. And what makes the kettle ponds great is, oh, look at this guy. We're gonna see if we can grab him up here. I never brought a net.
I forgot my net,
Yeah.
and I forgot my pliers.
You know what, we don't need a net. I'm gonna go ahead and, Andy, we're gonna see if we can grab this guy. We happen to have a great hatchery here on Cape Cod. This is a stock trout, obviously. And I'm gonna go ahead and pass that rod to you. Go ahead and pick this guy up. See if I can't show the folks at home some of the big fish that you can get. Look at the kite on this guy.
That's a beautiful brook trout.
Look at this guy. That is a gorgeous brook trout, guys. That's a slob right there. Beautiful fish. Look at the kite on this thing.
Yeah, that's a real nice brook. That's very possibly could be a holdover fish.
Thank you.
There we go.
Gorgeous right there, guys. Look at the size of that brookie. Look at the kite, Andy. When was the last time you saw a kite like that?
Yeah, it's going to be a male. They have that hook on the front of their jaw like that.
End of March, early April. Look at that guy go.
He's fine. Nice fish, Chris.
Beautiful.
There's a big one right there. Nice. Oh, nice. This is a decent sized brookie right here. I saw this guy actually bit probably 10, 15 feet right out in front of me. The water's crystal clear in here. That's a nice brookie. Got this guy on a Thomas Boyant spoon. It's a fluorescent orange. Sometimes in the springtime like this, I like real bright colors for the lures. It's probably a pound and a half, maybe a 2-pound brook trout. And a lot of people think of Cape Cod, they don't think about trout fishing, but there's really some great opportunities. And there he goes. Nice brook trout.
As you can see overhead, we've got a spotter plane. They're expensive.
That's a beautiful fish you got there. You got that guy in a shiner, right?
Yeah.
It's beautiful fish.
Boy, they are just stacked up right in front. Ooh, that's a big guy. Right along the bottom.
Oh, you got another one?
He just tightened it. I'll tell you what, made that switch to the cast master, and that is just paying dividends.
Yeah, I just tied one on myself. If they put 4 different kinds of trout in here, you never really know which one you're gonna get. And they're all absolutely beautiful fish. And that's what the typical size you'll find. And that, for trout, that's a good sized trout. They stock, most of the fish they stock are 12 to 14 inches. That guy's right in that class. But he has the potential to get a lot bigger.
Here he is, got him. Oh, come on, baby. Another beautiful fish. The water is so clear right now, we can actually see this fish kind of follow it in. I slowed it down and then gave it a quick twitch, and that's what reacted to it.
Looks like you got that one on a little Castmaster. It's one of my old standbys.
Coming right up, Andy. Look at the size
Beautiful
of that
fish. Wow.
Look at the kite on him and everything. big fish. Something took a whack at him,
Yeah, he's got some battle scars on him. He's probably been in the pond, but you never know. Like I said, they do stock fish this size.
I'm not throwing like a Thomas Bouillon or one of the Rough Rider spoons. I love going back to the cast mash. I've been fishing these as long as I can remember, both fresh and salt water, and it just seems to produce.
Yeah, great lure. As the name implies, they do cast great. And basically anything small and shiny and flashy will catch these fish.
Settled in 1637, Sandwich is Cape Cod's oldest town with a rich history that goes back to the days of English colonization. Although more well known for its beautiful beaches and expansive salt marshes on Cape Cod Bay, Sandwich actually has a number of pristine freshwater ponds. It's also the home of the Sandwich Fish Hatchery, which is one of 5 state-run hatcheries that raises trout to be released in ponds, lakes, and streams across Massachusetts.
Next up, we're going to take you guys on a little field trip to the Mass Wildlife Trout Hatchery here in Sandwich, Massachusetts. We're joined here by Adam Davies. He's one of the biologists that works at this hatchery. He's going to be going over a little step-by-step on what it takes to produce these fish. First off, how many fish do you guys raise at this hatchery every year?
We have 50,000 pounds of fish that we produce every year of brown trout, brook trout, rainbow trout, and a tiger trout, which is a hybrid that we make here between a brown trout and a brook trout.
Yeah, and you're one of the few hatcheries that does the tiger trout, correct?
We're the only state facility that makes the tigers.
Yeah, I know a lot of the other states, they don't stock any at all. We're lucky here in Massachusetts that we do have that wide diversity of different species raised at these hatcheries.
And these here are the smallest fish that we currently have on station. These are rainbow trout fry. These fish actually just hatched about 2-3 weeks ago. The rainbows are the only fish that we don't spawn here on station. We get the eggs from White Sulphur Springs, a federal trout hatchery. This time of year, even though it's very warm outside because we have all well water, that is constantly 50 degrees, so the water is always perfect for the growing of fish.
So do you guys filter the water before it comes in here? Is it all just natural, straight out of the well?
Nope, just comes right out of the ground.
Wow.
Yep.
Now, you guys have a lot of problem with predation on these fish?
We would have a lot of predation here if it weren't for the nets. Yeah, we get the osprey here. They come back every spring. We do get raccoons. We get the occasional otter and the occasional seal.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that was a big item in the news a couple of years ago.
Yeah, that's still the #1 asked question from tourists and visitors here.
It was a harbor seal,
where
correct?
was it and how big was she?
A lot of people don't realize that the Sandwich Hatchery is open to the public. You guys are open 9 to 3?
9 to 3, 7 days a week.
7 days
all
a week.
year. Weekends, holidays. There's always somebody here 9 to 3.
And it never gets old seeing, especially these big ones in the tanks. It kind of gives you hope when you're out there fishing that these fish do exist and they're out there and they're out and about and waiting to be caught. We're here today with Steve Hurley from Mass Wildlife. Steve just put some beautiful trout in here in the Cape Cod Pond. We're at Peters Pond today. Get some of the luckiest fishermen probably ever right here coming in to fish after those beautiful 4-pound brown trout you just put in there. Tell us a little bit about the stocking process.
Today we stocked in some excess brood stock from our Sandwich Fish Hatchery into Peters Pond here in Sandwich. This is one of the best trout ponds in the state. We put in a total of 30 4-pound brown trout, excess brood stock, some excess brook trout brood stock that averaged a couple pounds apiece, as well as about 20 tiger trout. So this is kind of a bonus stocking. These are some of the largest fish that we stock. Typically most of our stocking is rainbow trout with some brookies and browns, but these were some of our excess brood stock, which are some of the largest fish we stock.
Yeah, it's an incredible program, a lot of work. Anglers are always very excited. It's a sign of spring when you see the stocking trucks coming around. And it's really the beginning of the fishing season for a lot of people on Cape Cod.
That's right. It's always good to see the people out here fishing. These are the people that pay my salary and pay for the trout to be stocked in these ponds.
And it's a great program. We appreciate all your help and keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
After several weeks of late winter weather, spring finally returned in full force. With the trees budding, flowers blooming, and the smell of spring in the air, Chris and I ventured down to Gru's Pond in Goodwill Park in Falmouth. Goodwill Park is a true gem that contains miles of trails, access to clean freshwater beaches, and great picnic areas. The pond itself is a deep, round kettle pond with plenty of shoreline access. Every spring, the state stocks the pond with rainbow, brook, brown, and tiger trout.
Right now we're in Falmouth, Goodwill Park. This is Gru's Pond. It's a relatively small pond, but it's fairly deep. Gets to about 35 feet in here, and real nice, clean, clear water, which is great for the trout. But a lot of people don't realize Cape Cod was essentially covered up by a glacier about 20,000 years ago. And as that glacier started melting and moving northwards, large chunks of ice were left in certain areas, like right where I'm standing now. And over time, the sediment kind of built up around the edges of those big blocks of ice. When the ice finally melted over the course of a couple thousand years, there was a big depression. So pretty much all of Cape Cod is kind of speckled with these small, deep ponds. And this is kind of a stereotypical one. It's very round. You can see there's a good sized hill all the way around the perimeter of it. A lot of the ponds have that same kind of structure to them. I just tied into a nice trout. It's actually a largemouth bass.
What'd you switch over to? You left the spoon, right?
Yeah, I had a Yozuri, the Pinsman, a great lure. They don't cast that great, but with the wind at our back today, you kind of get it out there just far enough.
Ah, there you go.
It's actually a decent bass. Well, that's a good score.
So this is not a part of the stocking program.
Nope. It's interesting. A lot of people think that largemouth bass are native to these waters, but there was not a largemouth bass to be found anywhere in Massachusetts until I think it was like the early 1800s. They were transported in, I believe, from someplace in New York.
Really?
So they're actually an invasive species.
But after 200 years, we're going to give him a pass. He was in pretty shallow over here, huh?
Yeah, there's a little bit of a
shallows?
weed. It's one of the few places where there's a kind of a little weedy patch in the entire pond. The rest of it is pretty much gravel bottom, sandy bottom, not a lot of weeds in here.
Little mud turtle.
I never used to see those around, and then the past 5 or 6 years now, I've been noticing them a lot more.
More and more of them. These mud turtles are like the painted turtles. They're harmless. The snappers, even this guy, if it was a little snapper like that, I wouldn't pick him up out of the water like that. But you can always tell by the shell of that. The snapping turtle has a very rigid back shell. Painted turtles, you can tell by the black with the yellow stripes and a little bit of red in there. Little mud turtle coming for a visit, buddy.
Yeah, he looks cold, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Get back in there.
He's got to warm up.
I'm out of here.
Probably should have checked a little further to the left down there when we came in. But...
He was asking for it, and he got it.
Uh-oh. Get the net, get the net.
Take it easy now, buddy. Take it easy.
Sometimes the big ones fool you.
That's the beauty behind these little kettle ponds. You never know because of the stocking program what you're going to get in here, you know?
Now, aside from the trout, this pond also has some smallmouth bass. There's some largemouth bass in here, some yellow perch. Never seen a pickerel, which is odd. It's one of the few ponds I've never seen.
I've never seen a pickerel either. I'm gonna walk them right over your shoulder, Andy.
Nice brown trout.
Look at that.
That's a good sized brownie. And what'd you get him on?
That little Cleo?
The little Cleo. It's a great lure.
It's funny, you had a nice hit in that same area. I was kind of working that same spot. Look at the colors on him. I love
beautiful
when you get
fish.
these little red spots in there too. Now, Andy, is this a good size for the smoker?
Yeah, I like to think they're all good size for the smoker, Chris. I particularly like the rainbows better than the brookies or the browns. But when you smoke them all up, you can't tell the difference. Now this guy's hooked in the gill. He's not bleeding that bad. But if he's not going to make it, we'll take this guy home and put him to good use.
There's one.
Oh,
There's one.
there you go.
That's a decent fish. Oh, did he come unbuttoned? No, he's still there.
Came right at us, huh?
He's charging us. Actually use the net on this one.
Well, that was quick.
Oh, another one bites the dust.
I'm gonna go to your color, all right? Because there'll be more sitting there, Andy. Oh, there's one. Here we go.
Here you go, Chris.
We just moved over here to this different spot. So it's kind of a steep bank on the east side of the pond. Water drops off pretty quickly. It's funny, some areas of the pond definitely seem to hold the different species of the trout. The brookies and the tigers seem to like the overhanging trees and the shallower water, and the rainbows definitely tend to be more out in the open.
I'll tell you what, fishing this little ultralight just makes it so much fun on these fish. He's butting in the corner.
Yep, he's hooked well.
Nice fish, beautiful. How about we put him on the
rainbow.
smoker? You were saying that you enjoy this meat more than...
Yeah, I really prefer the rainbows when it comes to eating them anyway. I mean, when you smoke them, they all kind of taste similar, but these rainbows have a real nice, like, orangish color to the fillet, almost like salmon when you fillet them.
Yeah.
It's a real pretty looking fillet you get off these guys.
One of the things that we were talking about earlier was the fact that these fish have been put in here so that you can harvest them.
It's not like it's a native fish that was born here and reproduced naturally. It's pretty much a put and take fishery, and the survival rate isn't that great on these fish. And there's a reason they need very specific conditions to be able to reproduce, which we don't have in any of these ponds.
We got some fish for the smoker, and he's the head of the smoking now.
Smoke them if you got them. That's what I like to say.
All right, let's pop him on there.
Let's get a stick. All right, the first step in smoking fish is to brine your fillets. I use a basic brine mixture that consists of a 1/4 cup brown sugar, 1/4 cup of salt, 2 cups of water, and I also like to add in a little bit of pineapple juice, some bay leaves, a little bit of crushed garlic, as well as some minced onion. And we're gonna put the fillets in there and let that sit in the refrigerator for about 3 to 4 hours. Now it's time to dry these off. You don't want to put the wet fillets right under the smoker, so we're gonna remove all the liquid. We want to get all that excess moisture off the fillets. We want them to be nice and dry when they go into the smoker. That way they'll absorb more of the smoke flavor. Put some more paper towels on top and just kind of press them in there. Really make sure you get them nice and dry. Now we're going to take our dried off fillets and back into the fridge for another hour, hour and a half, and that'll really make sure we get all that excess moisture off the top of the fillets. All right, now it's time to fire up the smoker. Today I'm using an electric smoker. It's very easy to control the temperature on it, and it doesn't overpower and oversmoke the fish like some other techniques might do. So the first step is we need to load it up with wood chips, and this is the base. So you can see there's an electric coil in the bottom of the smoker. That's going to generate the heat that ignites the wood chips. And as far as the type of wood chips that you use, I like to go with some sort of hard fruit wood. Apple is usually the easiest one to find. I use chips, and I also like to use the chunks. Basically, these will burn for longer. The smaller chips will burn out fairly quickly. So I'll start out by putting my bigger chunks in there, making sure they don't touch it, because if they touch it, they'll burst up into flames. And some people will tell you need to soak the wood chips in water before you smoke, but that's definitely not true. It basically just makes it take longer and slows you down. Here, now I'm going to add the smaller chips, kind of fill in the holes. Make sure that they don't touch the coils anywhere. Otherwise, you're going to have a nice little fire going. And obviously, I'm doing this before I turn on the smoker. All right, our next step is to put some water in the pan at the bottom of the smoker. And this is a critical step. If we don't put water in this pan, we will end up with fish jerky, not smoked fish. The pan has water, and we'll carefully lower that back in there. Last but not least, we're going to cover our grate with aluminum foil, and this is going to serve two purposes. One, it's going to keep the fish from sticking to the grates, and it's also going to make it a lot easier to clean everything up at the end. And now I'm going to take a metal skewer, and I'm just going to poke some holes through the tin foil. This is going to allow any excess moisture to flow out, and it's also going to allow the smoke to come in from underneath. All right, our brined fillets have been sitting in the refrigerator for about an hour and a half now. They've gotten nice and dry on the outside, and it's formed what is called a pellicle. If you look at these closely, you can see there's kind of a sheen on the outside of the fillet. Almost looks wet, but it's actually kind of tacky to the touch.
And what that does is it allows the smoke to adhere better to the fish fillets, and it imparts more of that wonderful smoky flavor into it.
Now it's time to get these bad boys onto the smoker. We'll lay them right on top of the tin foil. Space them out a little bit. You don't want them to be touching. Now we're going to cover them up with another piece of tin foil. Make a little tent. That's just going to protect them from any moisture that's dripping off the top of the smoker down. It'll keep the fillets nice and clean as they're smoking. Pop on the lid. We're going to turn this up all the way to high, and we're going to leave it on high for about 20 minutes or so until it really starts getting nice and smoky. We'll drop it down to medium-low once we see a good amount of smoke coming out of the smoker. And that's the nice thing about the electric smokers. You really have a lot of control over the amount of temperature that's going on inside the smoker. All right, so now we have a good amount of smoke coming out of it. We're going to turn it from high down to about medium-low. And this is where we're going to leave it for the rest of the smoking time. Probably be about 3 to 4 hours. All right, we've replenished our chips. We're going to cover it back up, give it a little spin to rotate it so all the fillets cook evenly throughout the process. Fire it back up to about medium-low, and we should be good for about another hour or so. And this is just about right where you want to have the smoker set. I want to see a little bit of that subtle white smoke. That's about as much as I like to see, and I'll even turn it back down a little bit lower now. All right, we've had these guys on the smoker now for just about 4 hours. Now, there's no magic number when you're smoking fish as far as how long it takes. It all depends on a lot of variables: the outside air temperature, the temperature of smoker, the thickness of the fish. Really, you just need to kind of eyeball it, and when it looks done, it's done. I'd say these guys are definitely done. You can see they get some real nice color to them. They get that nice smoky edge to them. Just gonna use a spatula and kind of carefully pry these guys off. It's time for service. And there we have it, some nice, fresh, locally caught smoked trout. All right, cheers. Here's to the end of a long, cold winter, the beginning of a new fishing season, and some nice, fresh smoked trout. This is good stuff. Time to pig out, boys.